Breaking news on a Monday afternoon. Notre Dame has its fifth commitment in the 2022 class. Tyson Ford, a defensive end from St. Louis, picked the Fighting Irish over fellow finalists Georgia, Missouri, and Oklahoma. Mason, tell us about Tyson Ford. Who is he, and why is this a big get for the Fighting Irish?
He's a big dude, Mike. He's a really strong, versatile defensive end. And I was telling somebody the other day that he's the kind of guy that you have to land just about every class. Notre Dame didn't land this big of a target in this past recruiting cycle, and they got one here. Ford's one of the better players in the country, I think. He's a Rivals 100 player, ranked as the number 64 player in the country, the fifth at his position. I think he could be even better than that. This was a recruitment that Notre Dame had to grind for. They got it, and I think if Ford stays in this class as he should, they got a really, really good one coming to South Bend.
Yeah, you mentioned Notre Dame didn't get a guy like Ford in the 2021 class. I think you're speaking more about like defensive ends in particular. Will Schweitzer, Devin Alpue, a couple of solid defensive end prospects that the Irish landed, but maybe more project, high upside kind of guys. But
Right.
Ford, look at his rivals ranking, ranked as the number 64 player in the country, number 5 strong side defensive end, and number 3 player in Missouri. Pop on his tape here. He's long, lean. One thing I've heard that he might need to improve on is just his overall kind of build and strength. I mean, he's a strong kid right now, but that's something. But that's like an obvious thing. I mean, he's a junior in high school. But otherwise, he's pretty prototypical defensive end, Mason. Like I wrote this on my commit impact story, which you can find at blueandgold.com. If you're like making a creative player in Madden, a defensive end, it's pretty much Tyson Ford, right? I mean, long,
I think
disruptive. I mean, just kind of has everything you'd want. Position versatility.
explosive, long limbs. He has plenty of room to add on weight too, but he's so strong for how he is now. So he has the room to put on the weight, and I'm excited to see what he can do in the Notre Dame strength and training program because he's going to get even bigger and more stronger, faster. He's terrifying as it is. This film, I mean, he should be dominating at this level, but I mean, it just shows that he's one of the best players in the country. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, big time get for Notre Dame. Wanted to quickly mention Notre Dame's run in St. Louis here. You had the 2019
Yeah.
class, the Irish signed Kyren Williams, just a little 3-star prospect who is a betting favorite for the Heisman. I mean, it's like top 10 betting favorite, but an early candidate.
I've heard he's pretty good. That
Yeah,
Kyren Williams.
yeah, not bad. So he's a way too early betting favorite for the Heisman Trophy, which is kind of ridiculous to even talk about right now. But hey, he's in there right now. In the 2020 class, Jordan Johnson, 5-star receiver from DeSmet. Not a bad prospect either. Did not have much of a role on Notre Dame's 2020 season, but we are expecting that to change in 2021. The receiver position is pretty wide open. And then 2021 class, you had Gabriel Rubio from Lutheran St. Charles High School in St. Peters, which is actually where Tyson Ford lives, St. Peters, Missouri, and grew up playing, middle school football, elementary school football with Gabriel Rubio. Tyson Ford played with him. So great friends, the Rubio family and Tyson Ford's family, close. Again, known each other for several years. And then look at the 2022 class. You got Tyson Ford. So that's a pretty strong quartet of recruits that Notre Dame's landed from not only Missouri, but specifically the St. Louis area. And then, looking at potential more Notre Dame recruits in the 2022 class from the area. Toriano Pride is another guy that, Ford and Rubio have known over the years. That's a big-time cornerback from St. Louis. So, maybe some more guys pop on the radar too. And then even looking to the 2023 class, not to get way ahead of ourselves, Notre Dame hasn't offered anyone, at least off the top of my head, in Missouri yet. But Mac Markway is a tight end from DeSmet, which is, where Jordan Johnson went to high school. So when Johnson was a senior, Markway would have been a freshman. He's already a national prospect. So when Notre Dame really starts going after 2023 tight ends prospects, Mac Markway will be at the top of the list, I would imagine. But getting back to Ford, not too off track. His recruitment, Mason kind of walked through Um, December, he tweeted out he was announcing January 18th. And what were we thinking at that point?
Yeah, we weren't thinking it was going to be Notre Dame. I remember you and I, we went through like the top targets for this class, and he was definitely up there because, like I said, he's one of the better players in this class. But I don't think you or me really thought that Notre Dame had a great shot. Notre Dame was in the top group. It was always in there with a chance, but it wasn't the favorite by any means. And then just over the past couple weeks, man, Notre Dame really picked up the momentum. Mike Elston stayed on him, and he won this one, and it's a big get. Mike Elston's a great recruiter, sometimes undervalued, I think, but he stole this one away from Oklahoma, and it's a great pickup. And it wasn't one that, like I said, it didn't look like it was going to happen for a long time, but he got it done.
Yeah, I'd say there's three biggest factors that went in Notre Dame's favor here, and I'll go through these. It was Oklahoma, like it just was.
Right.
Tyson Ford was going to Oklahoma, but there was kind of like a last minute switch in Tyson's Ford mind that he wanted to go to Notre Dame. So here are my three factors, and I'll even put them in order for you guys. I usually don't put things in order, but here you go. Number one was Notre Dame's academics, just the life after football, the 4 for 40. Stacking up Notre Dame and Oklahoma on paper, both excellent in football, but which offers the better, academics, and that's kind of what Ford, realized in that academics was absolutely huge for him. Number two, I would say, is Mike Elston. Notre Dame led most of this recruitment. The Irish offered back in April. Notre Dame led most of the way, and then Oklahoma offered in October and kind of took the lead going into his decision. But Elston did such a great job. Mike Ogwin, Elston's right-hand man in defensive line recruiting. I believe he's a graduate assistant, came over from Texas Tech. Those guys just did a really nice job with Tyson Ford. Strong connection, recruited the family too. And then I would say number three, and this one's kind of the cherry on top, is Marcus Freeman. Got in contact with Ford just a few days ago, and again, kind of that cherry on top that the combination of Notre Dame's academics with Mike Elston and even the connection with Gabriel Rubio, all really good things going in Notre Dame's favor. And then just kind of like this, the stamp on it was Marcus Freeman. Connected well. What Freeman had to say to Tyson Ford, just kind of struck home with him.
Yeah, it's always good to hear. And Freeman has barely been on the job, just a couple weeks, and he's going after Notre Dame's top targets and winning it here. This recruitment obviously wasn't all him because he's still new to Notre Dame, but to finish it strongly and to make an impression on a guy like Ford that quickly says a lot about Freeman. He's a really charismatic guy, and you can tell just by the way he recruits guys and how they develop a relationship with him so quickly. So I think it's only points to good things for the future as far as Freeman's ability to recruit. We haven't even seen him coach yet, but I think he's a guy that a lot of fans are liking right now.
Yeah, he's kind of an opposite of Clark Lee. And I don't mean that in a bad way towards either guy. I mean, Clark Lee is just a little bit more, I always call him professorial in his approach. Someone like Chance Tucker, they're just like super high academic kids that he just meshed well with because Clark Lee was just such a brilliant man. Whereas Marcus Freeman's brilliant in his own way, where he just brings such great energy. But one thing that I really want to mention about Freeman and him picking Notre Dame instead of LSU as defensive coordinator is that he, like that degree from Notre Dame, he felt like he could really sell that in recruiting. And we're seeing it here with Tyson Ford. So really just the beginning of Marcus Freeman and Notre Dame recruiting. Not to give him all of the praise for this one. Like I mentioned, I would probably put him as the number 3 importance level. This is just one man's opinion from what I've gathered. But certainly played a role. So 5th commitment in Notre Dame's 2022 class. You have tight end Jack Nickel from Georgia. Tyson Ford is the first defensive end. You have linebacker Nolan Ziegler, and then a pair of offensive linemen, Ty Chan and Joey Tanona. So solid group so far. 4 of the 5 prospects are listed as 4 stars per rival. So solid get here for Notre Dame and strong start to the 2022 class.